using daylight here, and I don't have any other lights, so get this show on the road.
Looking good. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started here in the next minute or so. Let some other folks get the opportunity to join in. So another minute or so. Thank you. Looks like folks are starting to join. Let's give them another minute or so. Like to do this live with our partners here in the community and really throughout the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to introduce Leslie Main, the founder of the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, Krister. I have the distinct honor tonight of introducing you to our speaker. Ken Falk is a 21-year combat veteran of the United States Navy EOD community and retired Master Chief Petty Officer. Ken's passion is taking care of his fellow combat veterans and their families. He is the chairman and founder of Boulder, Crest, and the EOD Warrior Foundation. His book, Struggle Well, Thriving in the Aftermath of Trauma, that he co-wrote with Josh Goldberg, should be, in my opinion, mandatory reading for all high school students, if not college students and beyond. That's just the Reader's Digest version of Ken Falk. And I would just say at this point, he is a courageous leader that is one that I got to be fortunate enough to meet several years ago. At that time, I had hoped to meet anybody who cared about fixing the problem. The problem was one that I had a front row seat to, and my family, of reckless deaths and of suicides of our veterans after serving their country. Leaders are only as great as the positive impact that they have on other people, and Ken has had that kind of impact on me. He has inspired what I like to call the epidemic of hope and healing. He saw a problem, he set out to fix it by scouring the nation, seeking the best leaders in the fields of mental health and wellness. He's effectively created ways to use post-traumatic stress and turn it into post-traumatic growth, to heal and train and advocate for those who have experienced trauma. So as the foundation begins this new year of 2021, we thought it was really important that you meet the individual who's had the greatest impact on what we see as our greatest mission going forward, and that is delivering the Warrior Path program to the Pacific Northwest. I'm truly grateful, Ken, that you've given us this opportunity. And so at this point, I'd just like to say thank you, welcome to this webinar of sorts, and thanks for staying up so late from the great state of Virginia. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Leslie, for the kind word. Getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know, maybe somebody needs a mute. Thank you for the kind words, and it's always embarrassing to hear your bio or some form of it read. But I want to first of all congratulate you and your staff, who are the ones that I can see on the screen. And I know there's a lot of other people listening to this, but to do what you do on a daily basis, to raise the resources that you need to get the word out in the Pacific Northwest, which is a large veteran populated area. I know that area fairly well. I used to have an office up in Anacortes and spent a lot of time in Seattle and north into Anacortes. And I'm really excited for all of you to be able to bring this program that we've spent not only a lot of money on, but a lot of blood, sweat and tears, literally, to get it to where it is today. And I know we've delivered the program in the Pacific Northwest before, and we will do that again in March and April, or at the end of this month, and then in April again. But thank you all, first of all, for giving me this opportunity. And, you know, you mentioned your family trauma tonight, last night, I guess, right, was the anniversary of Kyle's passing. And, you know, it's the whole story, as I've read the story and I've talked to you over the years, is a story that we know too well, and a story that should never, ever happen in any type of healthcare situation. And what happened with Kyle is devastating, I know, to you and your family, but also to the hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that this affects on a daily basis. You know, 125 Americans a day take their own lives, and 22 of those approximately are veterans, military, active duty military and veteran personnel. And it shouldn't happen in our ranks. It shouldn't happen for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons is that the military is such a great family that that we should do a much better job of embracing each other and being there for each other in these times of need. And I hope that the work that we're doing in Warrior Path and the other work that we're doing will help and prevent and reduce the situations that you and your family had to endure 11 years ago, right? So with all that said, let me just give everybody a quick background on myself. Leslie read my bio. My wife and I, early in the war, Iraq War, 2004, started a foundation just to service severely physically injured EOD troops. And EOD is explosive ordnance disposal. It's the bomb disposal unit for the military. And that's what I did in the military. And we spent a lot of time here at the hospitals at Walter Reed and Bethesda Naval Hospital at the time in Washington, D.C., visiting with families whose children had lost limbs, primarily, mostly amputees. Not all amputees. We had a couple guys that were blinded, 3 guys that were blinded by IEDs. We had a couple guys that were severely burned, and we had a couple guys that were paralyzed from gunshot wounds and explosions. And what we realized early in the war was that these families were in for a long stay at the hospital. The average amputee would inpatient for about 3 to 4 months, and then outpatient for an additional year, in some cases 3 years. And that's very disruptive to a family, to say the least. You know, God forbid, but if, you know, something happened to me tonight and I ended up in the hospital here in my county, my wife could drive to the hospital and visit me and come back. But, you know, imagine a Marine who's stationed in Camp Pendleton, California, deployed to Afghanistan, gets injured and medevac to Washington, D.C. His wife and children are in Camp Pendleton. His mom and dad are in Utah, and his in-laws are in Florida. And everybody has to uproot their lives to get to this hospital, to be around the one that they love, to help them through this healing process. And believe it or not, when that happened early in the war, the government did not pay for those families to travel to the hospital. And that's what we started to do. So I worked with amputees for a long time, from about 2004 to 2000. Well, I still do in some respects, but till 2013, when we opened up Boulder Crest, I was in and out of these hospitals visiting a lot. And we opened up our first retreat center, Boulder Crest Retreat, here in Bluemont, Virginia, where I live, about an hour west of DC. And we did that because what we realized in the hospital was that these families needed a break from that environment. And we wanted to give them a home away from home. We had been bringing their families out to our house here in Bluemont for barbecues and overnight stays. But what we really wanted for them was to have a home away from home where they could call it their own for the weekend and get away from the hospital. And that's what inspired us to build Boulder Crest. About a year into Boulder Crest, we were running a caregiver retreat. And at the time, most of the caregivers we were serving were the wives of these young guys who had lost limbs. And I walked in on a weekend retreat. It was a Saturday morning at breakfast. And there was one of the girls, young ladies, was sitting in our music room. And I went over and sat with her. And I said, "How's your weekend going?" And she said, "Oh, this place is beautiful. It's exactly what I needed." She said, "But I really struggle being around these other women. I kind of wish my husband would have lost his legs." And my jaw kind of hit the ground, because number one, I didn't know who her husband was or what his injuries were. But two is I couldn't imagine wishing that level of an injury on anybody. And I asked her why she would say something like that. And she said, "Well, the problem is nobody knows what's wrong with my husband. And with these other ladies, people can look at their husbands and kind of see what's wrong." And I said, "Well, what is wrong?" And she said he has PTSD. And I knew a little bit about PTSD at the time, maybe a little more than the average person, for a lot of reasons. One of them is I grew up in a family where we had a grandfather who was, World War II and Korean War veteran, a raging alcoholic, and suffered, I'm sure now that I know more, with PTSD. I also grew up as a young kid outside of DC during the Vietnam War, and a lot of my friends' dads who came home from war struggled, and I saw that up close and personal. I mean, I also had a little bit of traumatic experience in my own life and career. I broke my back in a parachuting accident halfway through my career, and that put a little bit of a damper on my life, and wasn't sure how that was all going to come out, but it ended up coming out well for a lot of good reasons, and reasons that we can talk about tonight, and you'll hear other stories tonight. But I was really intrigued by this story, and I wanted to learn more. So I mentioned to this young girl that I believed that we could help her husband, and there was more that we could do. And that led me on a journey around the States, as Leslie pointed out, to meet some of the top doctors in the world that study PTSD and have written on it and written beautiful reports on it, and unfortunately hadn't done a lot with their efforts. And we wanted to bring all those efforts together and look at the stigmas associated with PTSD, and why people don't go to treatment, and why people drop out of treatment, and all those things that we always hear about in the news and in the stories about men and women with PTSD. But most importantly, to figure out how to stop the suicide epidemic that we're in. I spent 21 years in the Navy on active duty in EOD, and never had one suicide on that we knew of anyway in our EOD, active duty Navy EOD, or our veteran community. And since I've retired, we've had more Navy EOD techs take their own lives than have died on the battlefield over the last 20 years of combat. So something's going on, and that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. And I think we're doing a great job with our Warrior Path program. And really, the most exciting part of me being here tonight is to let you know that what we've been doing at Boulder Crest and our Arizona and our Virginia facilities, delivering this Warrior Path program and a whole host of other programs that we do at our centers, we are scaling it nationwide thanks to a handful of very generous philanthropists, specifically two men, the men that founded the Home Depot, co-founded the Home Depot, Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank. Their generosity to each contribute $20 million in effort to raise an additional $160 million, a total of $200 million to help us scale not only the work that we're doing at Boulder Crest, but the work that's done at the Marcus Institute for Brain Health at the University of Colorado in Denver. And in partnership with the Gary Sinise Foundation, who's leading this project, which is now referred to as the Avalon Network, Avalon being the place where King Arthur went to heal his wounds after combat and then lead his men and women back into their golden age. And that's what we believe. We believe very strongly that combat veterans possess a strength that doesn't exist in the average human, and that we believe combat veterans deserve an opportunity to thrive here at home and to be the productive members of society here at home that they were on the battlefield. And what we hope is that that message becomes a viral message for all of us to share and for all of us to help each other through these challenging times. So I'm excited to tell you that we're going to have 10 partners in total that deliver our Warrior Path program in 10 traumatic brain injury centers. Josh Goldberg, who is kind of my right-hand man, is in Arkansas this week with partner number 8. And I'm pleased to tell you all tonight that the PTSD Foundation is going to be partner number 9. And we're going to deliver a few Warrior Paths this month and next month, followed by a bigger rollout with hopefully a fundraising opportunity to build a Boulder Crest-like facility in the Pacific Northwest so that we can, in fact, have a permanent place up there to allow that part of the country to serve the veteran population and the first responders who are suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder. So thank you all for being here. I hope that we can inspire some of you to continue to give and dig deep and open up your networks and share the word. I always tell people that we have 3 missions in our nonprofit work, and one of them is obvious, and that's to raise money. Most of the money we raise is private money, although we're hoping that the VA comes around at some point and helps us out with some grants. 2 is to help us share the word, or do what I call cheerleading. As you see the beautiful post on the PTSD Foundation's Facebook page and YouTube channel and Instagram, share those words, because you never know who in your network might be inspired by doing that. And the 3rd is to volunteer. All nonprofits need volunteer support, and the more volunteers we get, the better off we are, because it makes for a little bit less money that we have to raise when we get your free labor. So thank you all for being here tonight. Leslie, and to your team, thanks for your leadership, and excited to work with you over the next several years to get this to become a reality.
Yeah. Ken, thank you very much to you and your team. It's a pleasure to work with them virtually, but in 2 weeks, we're going to be hosting and supporting the mobile training team here in the Pacific Northwest, and we can't wait. We're fired up. So thank you for making the time to be with us tonight. Exciting news. My name is Krister Bradley. I'm an Army veteran. I've been a part of the foundation for the last 8 years. And my wife and I are committed to our mission and to those men and women that we serve. I'm going to have the opportunity to introduce you to 3 of those folks here in a minute. But to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on our journey, because it really is a journey and it doesn't have a finish line. You're not cured of post-traumatic stress. This is going to be ongoing for the men and women that are dealing with this, but also for organizations like ours and those within the Gary Sinise Foundation, Avalon Network. Our mission is to continue this forever. It's my honor to introduce all of you to these three amazing human beings, truly warriors in their own right. And I'm also grateful for their service, but their sacrifice even more so, because each one of these individuals has sacrificed a lot personally, as well as their families and friends. But I'm also grateful to call them my friends, which is pretty incredible, because that's what we in the military or law enforcement, first responders, it's always about who's on our left, who's on our right, right? And I think of these three, if you're going to go to combat with anybody, you're going to want to go with these three. So grateful for that. I'll do a quick introduction of all three of them, and then I'd like each of them to provide a little bit of insight about their journey. First one, a gentleman by the name of Dirk Erickson, United States Marine Corps officer, began as a pilot, transitioned to logistics, but also spent some times downrange in civil affairs in Afghanistan. He's Warrior Path 078 out of Arizona in January 2020. Saudi McVeigh, Air Force Reserves, 31 plus years, or I might have a decade wrong, 41 plus years, which is incomprehensible. But incredible woman, incredible leader. She'll actually be retiring this summer. Warrior Path Class 079 out of Virginia in January 2020. So Saudi, thank you for being on. And then Steve Easton, 20-year sheriff out of Pima County in Arizona. Patrol work, crimes against children detective, sex offender registration and tracking detective, the public information officer, but our law enforcement representative here on the call, because it's important that we all recognize that the mission is for active duty, retired folks that have gotten out of the military, but also firefighters, law enforcement, EMS. This program will assist all of those folks. So Dirk, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit of insight on your journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to everyone for being here. I'll do my best to follow up you and Ken, Krister. So I joined the military after college, deployed in 2011 to Marja, Helmand, Afghanistan. While I was there, my roommate and best friend was killed in action. Also just kind of a dark 7 months on deployment. You're dealing with a lot of death and a lot of dark things. Part of my job was kind of, going down those rabbit holes to do things. And so long story short, no time to mourn on deployment. And when you don't mourn, that just exacerbates things I learned. Then shortly after getting home from deployment, I had to transition out of the military. Well, I chose to, but that was incredibly difficult as well. I was still transitioning from just being not in a war zone to back home, and then losing kind of all the rest of my sense of purpose as well. And that compounding really made that difficult. So I found it incredibly hard. I also chose to uproot myself and move back home. And so I was in San Diego, Camp Pendleton, and found myself back home without any of my closest friends and fellow Marines who knew what I'd been through and could relate to it. They were still there for me. They just weren't right there for me. So I really needed a program like this back then. Unfortunately, I didn't know about it. Luckily, I got linked up with the PTSD Foundation and Leslie and was able to go and experience this wonderful program. Before I went, I definitely had a temper. It kind of took over parts of my life that I didn't want to allow it to, but it was beyond my control. Let me see. Basically, I just ran hot, and I reacted instead of responded, which is something I learned how to deal with. Also, the biggest thing though was just inability to focus. And so it really affected my ability to hold down a job. And I was terrified it would affect my ability to be a good husband one day. And that was a problem because I'd met the woman that I knew I wanted to marry. So after going through this program, it basically has changed my life in wonderful ways. I am happily married, expecting a baby. Yeah, it's been incredible. And, I'd like to say that I think I'm thriving in all the ways that I possibly can, ways I couldn't have dreamed of before going. And just the tools and also just the knowledge that comes from the program was amazing.
Thank you, Dirk, very much. Sadi.
Wow, it's hard to follow. My name is Sadi McVeigh, and I have been in the service literally 41 years, and when I retire, it'll be just short of 42, like 22 days short. I am an aeromedical evacuation technician, and I take care of patients on the back of large aircraft and bring them to further echelons of care, basically. But what threw my life apart was that my son was a combat engineer, and my son Bryce took his life in 2017 while I was deployed to Afghanistan. So I don't even know what to say, except when I was gone and then literally leaving one war zone and then coming home, just trying to deal with the loss of my son, hold on to my family as tight as I can, and really just breathe, but stay in my job, because without my job, I don't think, I just threw myself into that so that I could be okay, and just do what you're supposed to do, because I am a chief in the military right now, and my job is just to still take care of others, take care of my family, and I've been doing it for so long that I think there was a bit of an auto drive that you just do, kind of like fake it. I didn't. When Leslie asked me, I reached out to Leslie before my son was buried, not knowing what I wanted, other than I needed to reach out to somebody that had the same experience that I did, and maybe that person could guide me so that I could manage. And so I don't have any I didn't have a purpose in my mind, like what I wanted. I just needed to reach out to somebody that's made it through this. And so I reached out to Leslie Main, and her foundation just pulled me right in. When she offered me to go to Warrior Path last year, I knew that it was about a 7-day retreat, and that it had an 18-month program. So it was not a catch and release, which is huge. I didn't really know if I would be a candidate for that because I'm good at just moving and making it. But when I went to Boulder, Crest in Virginia, I had no control of my emotions in any way. I felt almost like overwhelmed in that 7 days. Even talking about it now, I mean, I literally had no ability to control the person that I was, and I had what I call crazy brain, and I could not shut it down, but I didn't know that I had a problem until I learned TM. So one of the practices is within Warrior Path. There's several practices, but one of them allows you to learn how to shut down your mind for 20 minutes. And that one practice just kind of hit me the hardest, knowing that that allowed me to see that I was completely broken, and that practice allowed me just to quiet down. And so there's a lot of great practices within the program, but that one practice, just shutting down your brain and allowing you to have a restart, almost a reset twice a day. And then even before talking right now, another practice is a 4-7-8, just breathing, just to allow you to control your emotions, because what I learned about myself after the loss of my son is that I am just on high drive, and you're just breathing, trying just to get by, and you can get by because that's a part of what your makeup is or your genetics are, and part of the military training. So I feel super lucky that I got to go to Warrior Path, and that I am grateful that I'm just right around 14 months right now, because I still, the homework that it provides you, the reading, the understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and remembering the foundation of the program, for me has been super huge. So it's not just 7 days and then boom, you're done. It's continual. You meet with your group, you talk to them, you have homework. It just helps you to put another layer on top of a layer to keep you moving, so that you can actually truly have post-traumatic growth. And so for me, that's kind of what I got out of it. And even reading a simple thing is just reading a book. I didn't have the ability to even focus and read a book. And since Warrior Path, I have read several books, many by Audible, but I still count that as reading. And where I couldn't even read a book and understand what it was saying, because I didn't have the ability to calm down and restart. So I am super grateful for the program, and I just thank you so much to Ken's program and then the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation, just for allowing me the opportunity to change who I am, and I needed it. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Hadi. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Steve Easton.
Yes, sir, Krister. Yeah, and working off of what Dirk and Saudi both said, I think, and sharing some of my understanding and what I've learned from the process and from the program, I think one of the most impactful things for me was that this is training, and it's not therapy. It's a structure. It's a body of wisdom that's been constructed over a period of time, and it's been constructed by people who have been in the very situation that the folks who need the assistance find themselves. You know, for people that are in service, people who are serving and have committed themselves to be in harm's way, and to take care of a mission that allows other people to enjoy their freedom and to enjoy their ability to live their lives unencumbered. There are difficulties that are picked up along the way. There's struggle, and there's stress, and there's trouble that ends up accumulating over time. And as that population who are built and trained to persevere, to continue to serve, and to continue to push on, that accumulation over time can become quite the encumbrance. And I think one of the most impactful things about this Warrior Path training was that it was training, and that it's there's no pretense. It meets the servant where the servant is in the struggle and the difficulty, and recognizes that while struggle's real and it's legitimate, it also can be a real fertile bed and catalyst for change and for growth. And by understanding that while that struggle's real and while the difficulty's real, there are also opportunities to learn with the training and the skills and all of the characteristics and assets that make servants who they are and what they are to one another and to the missions that they were carrying out. Those things can also help them to work on and train from those areas of difficulty. And this is a population of doers. These aren't people who want other people to come in and fix them or us. Having the training, having the ability to work from the position that you're in, formed around a body of knowledge that was built and perfected and honed by the same group, the same population, carries an authenticity and an effectiveness that's unrivaled and unmatched. I feel like the opportunity to really invest in the health and well-being of the people who have chosen to serve all of us and continue to serve all of us isn't just an investment in the individual, where the time and the resource and the blood, sweat, and tears would certainly be warranted. But because all of us in this population, whether first responder or combat veteran, are servants, post-service life, post-professional service life, that servant heart remains. And by continuing to invest in the health and well-being of the people that want to serve and have given their lives and made that lifetime commitment to service, we're not just investing in those individuals, we're investing in our communities, we're investing in our surroundings, and we're investing in each other. And I think the tools and the abilities that our combat veteran, first responder community possesses are valuable day in and day out, whether that's in the accomplishment of a service mission or if it's in daily personal life. And I think probably everybody on this call understands and knows at least somebody that's a combat vet or first responder who is that person in their community. And I think that was one of the most impactful things of thousands that I learned in going through Warrior Path. And one of the things I cherish the most, I think that as a member of a doer community, somebody that wants to bring about change, I think having an effective foundation that's built from actual success and training people how to use their gifts to make themselves and to make their communities better is so on point and on brand for our community that I'm thankful for it every day. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to talk to you guys and to share my understanding of it. And thanks, Ken, for being here. And I sure appreciate this.
Thanks, Steve. I want to thank Dirk, Saudi, and Steve for just sharing a little bit of their story. There's so much more, but also their insight on how Warrior Path has impacted their lives. That takes a lot of guts, I think, too. I don't know if we got thousands watching right now, but sharing that, we really do appreciate that, and it means a lot. So the Gary Sinise Foundation Avalon Network, when we heard about that, we were floored. Grateful to be asked to be a partner, but I think even more importantly that Ken trusted us to be a partner. And we had to earn that trust. I think through our deeds as a foundation, but also showing that our local community was bought in and was all in and would be able to support us. So incredible timing right now. We'll be following up with a press release tomorrow about this announcement. We wanted Ken to be a part of our first communication of this being us being a part of the network. Really, our journey, Leslie and mine, I think, was started back in early 2016 when I had a chance to visit Boulder, Crest. It may have been the year before, but I think it's early 16. And both of us visited at different times, but at that point we said, we're going to bring Warrior Path to the Pacific Northwest. That was 5 years ago, right? We knew it was going to happen. We had no idea how. But it's real. And one of our sayings in a lot of our meetings these days is it's getting real, because it's getting real. So what's next? Right now we're going to be supporting the Boulder Crest mobile training team that'll be doing back-to-back paths here in the Northwest at the site that we're going to be conducting our Warrior Paths. So that'll be at the end of March and the beginning of April. We're also excited that we can actually now start recruiting and hiring the team, because right now it's basically Leslie and Fenny Freese and then a bunch of volunteers. We don't have a staff of 15 or 12. We've got two folks in the office, and then we've got an incredible board, an incredible community, and loads of volunteers. So we're very grateful to all of them, because without them, this wouldn't be possible. So our training will begin in June with Coach, AKA, or Greg Morin, AKA Coach. He's the director of training for the Boulder Crest Foundation. So our cadre will start training in June. Our first path, which would be led by Greg's team with us, it's basically a right seat ride. So we understand how to execute Warrior Path to standard. That's very important to the Avalon Network and to us, that our delivery is to standard per the curriculum that's been developed, because like Ken said earlier, we have the data that supports this. This really does work. And then, as you can imagine, conducting world-class training, which I believe this is, requires an investment. And one of those things that Ken mentioned is money. Fortunately, we've had a community that's been very giving, whether you're an individual, a family member, a nonprofit, a local company. Those of you are on the call right now that have already provided those kinds of funds and support to us. And for that, we are very, very grateful. But to be able to take this to the next step, we need that continued support of funds, of volunteerism, to be able to get us to which our vision is to replicate, Arizona or Virginia here in the Pacific Northwest, that we would have our own facility. But that's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, but ultimately an investment. But I'll guarantee you, we'll see the return of that investment. It's proven, the Arizona and Virginia sites have already shown that. The partners 1 through 7 have already shown that. We're number 9. So what I'm asking all of you tonight for is your continued support, both in your words, in your deeds, and financially. So with that, Leslie, any thoughts on our evening?
Well, just the fact that we're number 9, I don't know if Ken knows this, but at the Race for a Soldier, mile 9 is always referred to as Kyle's mile, because that was his number at Fork Union Military Academy as a football player, right down the street from you. So when you said number 9, I thought, oh my gosh, there is a God in heaven for sure. And all of this from the time I met you, Ken, and I saw that beautiful arch in Bluemont, Virginia, when I was sort of wandering through the streets of Bluemont. And that was 2013 or 14. So it was really early on. I just knew it was providence, and that one way or the other, we were gonna sort of just bug you to the point where you'd allow us to come in and listen to us. And I remember you have been so grateful and so gracious with your time. And it took some time to develop the relationship, and that's always the best way. But like Krister said, there's a trust, and it has to go both ways for sure. But we're going to make you proud, Ken. You've put a program together that I only wish that Kyle would have had a chance to walk into. But we get to do that for others, or for Bryce. Saudi, I knew from the moment I met you that one day we were going to go hand in hand and get this message out to other mothers and other dads and work together. Dirk and Steve, both of you, I feel the same way. So thank you just for everybody being here. And thank you to all of you that are listening tonight. You've been a part of our journey. You will continue to be. We're really grateful for compassionate allies like you.
Ken, any other?
No, it's hard to follow that. I just say thank you all. It's thanks Dirk and Steven and Saudi for sharing your stories, and Leslie for your leadership, and Krister for your leadership, and Fenny for all the hard work behind the scenes here. It's definitely exciting to see this brought to the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and any help that you can be in helping us get the word out and bring in the bigger philanthropist in. It cost us $10 million to build Virginia. It cost us $10 million to buy Arizona, and it costs us about $1.5 million a year to run the place, each of the places. So this is a big commitment, and we need some big donors and some big givers, and any help that any of you can be with the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation will be greatly appreciated. So thank you all, and have a good night. Thank you for including me this evening.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, everybody.